Hello, my friends. Today we are going to be doing Lesson 7, Convert Units of Time. Starts on page 737. Again, the whole chapter, our essential question that we are answering is, why do we convert measurements? So the steps that you use to convert units of length, weight, and capacity can be used to convert units of time. So let's do a quick review about time. So here is my analog clock. It just barely fits in the screen here. Okay, so if you remember about analog clocks, and I know a lot of us have kind of gotten away from this skill, but it's very important that we know how to do this because there are still analog clocks around, but there's so many digital clocks around that sometimes I think people forget how to tell time using this type of clock. But here we go, little review. So the shorter hand, that is the hour hand, right? And the longer hand is the minute hand. This clock happens to have a second hand as well, this red one that's going around. Okay, so here's how you tell time with an analog clock. Right now it is 4 o'clock, okay? The little hand is pointing to the 4 and the big hand is on the 12. Okay, you might remember that the minutes on the clock, you count by 5 for each number. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. There are 60 minutes in an hour, right? And as this minute hand comes around, this hour hand is going to slowly move between these two numbers. When the hour hand is between the two numbers, it's still the lower number is the hour that it is, and then the minute hand determines the minutes, right? Okay, so you might remember there are 60 minutes in an hour, and there are 60 seconds in a minute, okay? So here is our first example. Okay, Cooper watched a butterfly in his garden for 5 minutes. How many seconds did he watch the butterfly? So 1 minute equals 60 seconds. So to convert larger units of time to smaller units of time, you have to multiply, just like we did with length and weight and capacity. Okay, so 5 times 60. They're giving you a hint here. 5 times 6 is 30, right? 5 times 60, you just add the 0. So that's the trick. You just multiply the two numbers that are not 0, and then you add back in however many zeros you have, you add at the end of that, okay? So 5 times 60 is 300. So Cooper watched a butterfly for 300 seconds. Okay, so we've already reviewed this. 1 minute equals 60 seconds. 1 hour equals 60 minutes. But we haven't talked about this yet. 1 day is 24 hours. There are 24 hours in a day. On the analog clock, right, it's going to go around 2 times, right, because 12 plus 12 is 24 hours, okay? 1 week is 7 days, and 1 year is equal to 52 weeks or 12 months, okay? So that's the end of page 735. Turn the page in your book to 736. Example 2. Audrey is going to watch a movie at the movie theater. The movie starts at 3:30 p.m. and ends at 5:37 p.m. How long is the movie in minutes? Okay, so this is very, very real world here, because when you are going to a movie theater, if you click on the website, a lot of times they can tell you how long the movie runs, and they typically give it in total number of minutes, and then you have to determine how many hours that is. You might also see this, like if you have a DVD at home, at the bottom of the back part of the case, typically they have the running number of minutes there as well. So to find the time interval, or the length of time from the start of the movie to the end of the movie in minutes, first you have to figure out the time between 3:30 and, we're trying to find out between 3:30 and 5:37. Okay, so they say count the whole hours from 3:30 to 5:30. So to go from 3:30 to 5:30, even if you look at a clock, right? So it's 1, 2, right? Here's 3. So it's 3:30, right? If you're at 3:30, it would be 4:30, 5:30. So that would be 2 hours, okay? So we are going to fill in here 2 hours, okay? Then they say to count the remaining minutes. So to go from 5:30 to 5:37, is 7 minutes. I don't know if you could see that. So like 37 minus 30 is 7 minutes. So it is 2 hours and 7 minutes. Now we have to change this out, the hours into minutes. So since 1 hour equals 60 minutes, you multiply 60 by 2. 60 times 2, again, remember it's 6 times 2 is 12. Then you add that 0, so it's 120. 120 plus this additional 7 minutes is 127. So the movie is 127 minutes long. Okay, now we have our conversion tables here. Okay, so we're going from minutes to seconds. Okay, this is a bigger amount than seconds, right? There's 60 seconds in a minute. So I'm going to times it by 60. Okay, so 1 times 60 is 60. I could do that in my head. Now you can really do the rest of these in your head if you know your multiples of 6. Because 6 times 2 is 12, and then you add the 0. So our two numbers here are 2 and 120. Okay, and then we have 3. Okay, so 3 times 6 is 18, and you add the 0. Okay, and then the two coordinates are 3 and 180. Okay, 4 times 6 is 24. So the answer here is 240. So we're 4 and 240. Okay, now we're going from days to hours. Okay, so there are 24 hours in a day. And they kind of switch this up on this table here, I think, to confuse us. Okay, but we're not going to let that happen. So 1 times 24 is 24. So my two numbers here are 24 and 1. Now, maybe you could do this in your head. 24 plus 24 is 48. Or maybe you have to multiply. Okay, and to set that up, it's 24 times 2. 2 times 4 is 8, and 2 times 2 is 4. So this is 48, and our numbers here are 48 and 2. Now we have 24 times 3. 3 times 4 is 12. I put down the 2, I carry the 1. I like to circle it so I don't get it mixed up with my other numbers. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 more is 7. So this is 72, and our numbers here are 72 and 3. Okay, 24 times 4 days. 4 times 4 is 16. I put down the 6, carry the 1. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 more is 9. So this is 96. 96 and 4. Okay. Now we are converting from weeks to years. And we know there are 52 weeks in a year. So this time we're going to times by 52. Okay, again, we might need to write this out because we're not going to know how to do this in our head. Okay, so a little bit more paper here. Okay, so we could do this. 1 times 52 is going to be 52. Our numbers are 1 and 52. Okay, but now I have to start writing this out and figure out the math. Now I know a lot of you have calculators at home, and maybe you've been using them for math class since you've been home, but you really need to know your multiplication facts and how to calculate them on your own without the help of a calculator, because you won't be allowed to use a calculator next year in school. Okay, so 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 times 5 is 10. So the answer here is 104, and our two numbers are 2 and 104. So if you don't know your math facts very well, then that is something you definitely need to practice over the summer. 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times 5 is 15. So our number here is 156, and our two numbers here are 3 and 156. Okay, 52 times 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 5 is 20. So this is 208, and our two numbers are 4 and 208. Okay, that's the end of page 736. Moving on to 737, if I can get this page to go. Here we go. Okay. So you may have noticed that I had to white everything out on this because the same thing happened to me today that happened yesterday. My mom called in the middle, and for some reason, it stopped my recording. So I had to start over. So here we go, next chart. Okay, so now we're going from weeks to days. So there are 7 days in a week. So this, you could probably do some of these in your, well, all of these in your head, hopefully. So we're going to times it by 7. 2 times 7 is 14. So this is 14 and 2. 4 times 7 is 28. So this is 4 and 28. 6 times 7 is 42. So this is 42, oops, and 6. I goofed this one up. This should be 28 and 4. Sorry about that. Okay, 8 times 7 is 56. So this would be 56 and 8. Okay, now they want us to go from hours to minutes. Okay, so there are 60 minutes in an hour times 60. Okay, so again, do the trick. 3 times 6 is 18, so that's 18, and you add that 0, so it's 3 and 180. Okay, 4 times 6 is 24, add the 0, 4 and 240. 5 times 6 is 30. Don't get goofed up here because you have a 0. You still have to add another 0, so that's 5 and 300. And 6 times 6 is 36, add that 0, 6 and 360. Okay, moving on. Okay, now they want us to go from years to months. So this time you're going to times it by 12. Hopefully you know your 12s. 1 times 12 is 12. So this is 1 and 12. 3 times 12 is 36. So it's 3 and 36. 5 times 12 is 60. This is 5 and 60. Okay, what if you didn't memorize these though? What if you didn't know these bigger ones especially? You could always write it out. 12 times 7. 7 times 2 is 14. Carry the 1. 7 times 1 is 7. 1 more is 8. The answer here is 84. So this is 7 and 84. Okay, now we're going to have to write it out for sure because we don't know this off the top of our head. Because there are 52 weeks in a year, right? So this time we're going to times it by 52. Okay, so here's how we write it out. 52 times 5. 5 times 2 is 10. I put down the 0, carry the 1. 5 times 5 is 24. I'm sorry, 25. 1 more is 26. This is 260. And they have them switched up here. Bigger number first, 260 and 5. Okay, 52 times 10, that I can do in my head, right? Because 1 times 52 is 52, add the 0. This is 5, 20, and 10. Okay, now 52 times 15. 2 digit by 2 digit. Hopefully you remember how to do this. Okay, 5 times 2 is 10. I put down the 0, carry the 1. 5 times 5 is 25. 1 more is 26. Okay, I like to cross this one out, and some people cross out this number because you've already done the ones. Okay, now you do the tens, but what do you have to do first? You have to put a 0 here as a placeholder, okay? That 2 is looking a little goofy. Okay, 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 5 is 5. Now we add it together. 0 plus 0 is 0. 6 and 2 is 8. 2 and 5 is 7. So the answer here is 780. 780 and, whoops, 15. All right, now, can we do our little scoochy over trick here? We sure can, right? 52 times 20. Notice how you kind of squish it over. Okay, 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 5 is 10. Bring down that 0. So my answer here is 1,040. 1,040 and 20. Okay. Now we're doing some comparisons. Okay, if you want to stop the video and try this on your own at any time, your independent practice, okay, do that. Here we go. So we have to be able to compare apples to apples. So they have to be the same units in order to compare them, okay? So there are 60 seconds in a minute, right? So I need to change this to seconds. So 60 times 5, 300 seconds. Which is bigger, 300 seconds or 250 seconds? That would be the 300. So this should be greater than. Okay, let's try this one. Now we need to go from years to months, right? There are 12 months in a year. 4 times 12 is 48 months. Okay, which way should it go? It should be less than for this one. This one is super tricky. Okay, look at what they're doing. They're going from seconds to hours. All right, so what you need to do first is convert it to minutes. And then you have to convert it to seconds. Okay, so 300 seconds. And this would be how many minutes in an hour? There would be 60 minutes in an hour, right? Now I need to change this to seconds. There are 60 seconds in a minute, right? So look at this trick again. You could just do 6 times 6 is 36. How many zeros do I have now though? 1, 2. So I have to add 2 zeros here. So 1 hour is actually equal to 3,600 seconds. So which is bigger, right? This should be a less than sign. Okay, so look at these next ones. It says, how many times greater is 1 minute than 1 second? That would be 60 times, because there are 60 seconds in 1 minute. How many times greater is 1 hour than 1 minute? That would be 60 times, because again, there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. How many times greater is 1 week than 1 day? There are 7 days in a week, so that's 7 times. Okay, now these are tricky. Trying to figure out how many minutes are in the time interval means the difference between the two times of 1:22 p.m. and 5:44 p.m. Okay, we're only in 4th grade, so they're not going to make it super tricky, and they're going to have either a.m. or p.m., and it'll be the same. But once you get into 5th grade, they might change it to p.m. to a.m. or a.m. to p.m. So got to pay attention to that, right? Okay, but we're in 4th grade, so we're just going to figure out how many hours between 1:22 and 5:22. Figure out the hours first. So you can count on your fingers. 1:22, 1 hour would be 2:22, 3:22, 4:22, 5:22, right? Is that right? Yeah, 4 hours, right? Okay. You could also look at the clock. Now, 1:22 would be 1, 2, 3, 4 would get us to 5:22, right? Okay. So we have 4 hours. Okay, and then you have to figure out the difference between the minutes. So what's the difference between 5:22 to 5:44? How many minutes did I add to get here, right? So if you can't do that in your head, you can do a regular subtraction. You do 44 minus 22, it's going to be 22 minutes. Okay, so now they want to know the time interval in minutes. So I need to change this 4 hours into minutes. So there's 60 minutes in an hour, so 6 times 4 is 24, and add that 0, and now I have to add in the number of extra minutes I have. 0 plus 2 is 2, 4 plus 2 is 6, 2 plus 0 is 2. So that time interval is 262 minutes. Okay, those are tricky. All right, so let's try another one. How many minutes are in the time interval from 7:09 to 10 a.m.? Sorry, pay attention to that. 7:09 a.m. to 10:36 a.m. Okay, so counting your fingers. Okay, so we have 7:09, 8:09, 9:09, 10:09. 3 hours, right? Look at a clock. Okay, 7:09, right, to 10:09. 1, 2, 3. So the difference in hours is going to be 3 hours to 10:09. Okay? Now we have to figure out the difference from 10:09 to 10:36. Okay, so it's kind of hard just to know that off the top of your head. I would do a regular subtraction. 36 minus 9. Okay, I can't take 9 from 16. I have to borrow from the 3. Make it a 2. Make this 16 minus 9 is 7. 2 minus 0 is 2. So I have 27 extra minutes. Now I have to convert my 3 hours into minutes. So there's 60 minutes in an hour. 60 times 3 is 180 minutes, because 6 times 3 is 18, plus one more 0. Now I have to add in my 27 minutes. 0 plus 7 is 7. 8 plus 2 is 10. I put down the 0, carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. So the answer here is 207 minutes. Okay, those are tricky. Last page, some problem solving. Aubrey played on the playground for 2.5 hours. How many minutes did she play? Ooh, these are tricky fractions. Okay, first you figure out the whole number, right? 2 hours. And we want to do minutes. So there are 60 minutes in an hour. So 2 times 60 equals 120 minutes. Okay, now I have to figure out my fraction. So 1/2 times 60 over 1 equals 60 over 2, and half of 60 is 30. Because I can think 30 plus 30 is 60. If you don't know that off the top of your head, you could just do it this way as well. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 0, bring down that 0. Okay, there you go. Okay, so now I have to add them together. 120 plus 30 equals 150 minutes. Okay, so maybe you have to write that out. 120 plus 30 equals 150. Okay, next. Alex had to rent the pavilion at the park for a minimum of 3 hours. How many minutes is that? So what do? There's 60 minutes an hour. So 3 times 60, 6 times 3 is 18. Add that 0 in, it's 180 minutes. Okay, moving along. Justin painted his fence from 8 a.m. to 11:47 a.m. How many minutes did he paint the fence? Okay, so 8 to 11, right? 8, 9, 10, 11. 3 hours. And to go from 11 o'clock to 11:47, that's 47 minutes, right? Okay, now I have to convert this to minutes. Times 60 minutes in an hour equals 180 minutes. I didn't line that up very good, but add these together. 0 plus 7 is 7. 8 plus 4 is 12. Put down the 2, carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. So our answer is 227 minutes. Okay. It took Aiden 20 minutes to walk to school. It took Callie 900 seconds to walk to school. Who took less time to walk to school? Okay, so again, we have to be able to compare apples to apples. You have to have the same units here. Okay, so it took Aiden 20 minutes. Well, there's 60 seconds in a minute. So I need to change this to seconds. So 20 times 60, again, I could just do 6 times 2 is 12, and now I have 2 zeros. So it takes him 1,200 seconds. Now you have to pay attention to what they're asking you here. It says, who took less time to walk to school? So who took less time? Callie's 900 and he's 1,200, or 1,200 seconds. So Callie, okay, it says to explain. So here's how we explain. 20 minutes equals 1,200 seconds. Okay. And that is greater than 900 seconds. There's your explanation. Okay. Number 20 says, Sadie wrote the following on the board. Find and correct her mistake. 2 years equals 24 weeks. What is her mistake here? She multiplied the number of years by 12, which is the months, right, instead of the weeks, right? So we're going to say that. Sadie multiplied the number of years You see this still? The number of years by 12 instead of how many weeks are in a year? 52. There are how many months in 2 years? 24 months in 2 years. How many weeks are in 2 years? Well, that would be 52 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 5 is 10. Okay, so there are 104 weeks in 2 years. Okay. How does multiplication relate to time conversions? So we're going to say measures are multiplied in order to convert time from, just like we did before, from a larger unit to a smaller unit. Okay? So, it says to give an example. So, to convert 3 hours, let's say, to minutes, comma, you multiply, okay, shush, by 60, since there are 60 minutes in an hour. I'm running very small. I don't know if you can see this. Hopefully you can. Okay, so 3 times 60 equals 180. So there are 180 minutes in 3 hours. Okay, we are done. Okay, if you have any questions about this lesson, tune in to our Zoom call at 11 o'clock today. Hopefully you got all of that and it made sense. And I will see some of you maybe later. Take care, my friends.